In January 2026, the Trump administration took the dramatic step of capturing Nicolas Maduro in a military operation titled Operation Absolute Resolve. The reasons cited by the administration for seeking to remove Maduro and influence the Venezuelan regime are multifaceted, ranging from national security to economic interests. The primary reasons can be categorized into four key areas. 1. National security and narco-terrorism. President Trump has framed the Venezuelan regime as a narco-terrorist threat. Drug trafficking. The administration alleges that Maduro and high-ranking officials, the Cartel of the Suns, orchestrate the flow of cocaine into the United States. Terrorist designations. The U.S. has designated Venezuelan gangs like Tren de Aragua as foreign terrorist organizations, linking them to the regime to justify the use of military force under armed conflict protocols. Adversarial influence. A core objective is to expel the influence of China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba, which the administration views as using Venezuela as a foothold to destabilize the Western Hemisphere. 2. Economic interests and oil. One of the most explicit drivers has been the control and recouping of Venezuela's vast energy resources. Oil infrastructure. Trump has stated that U.S. firms should develop Venezuela's oil reserves, the largest in the world, to rebuild the country's decrepit infrastructure. Revenue control. Following Maduro's capture, Trump signed executive orders to safeguard Venezuelan oil revenues in U.S. Treasury accounts, claiming they will be used for public sovereign purposes, and to repay U.S. oil companies for past losses. Energy deals. The administration has promoted a great energy deal, aiming to integrate Venezuelan oil more closely with American markets. 3. Migration and border security. The administration links the Venezuelan regime's collapse to the U.S. border crisis. Reducing exodus. Over 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country due to economic collapse and repression. Trump argues that removing Maduro is the only way to stop the influx of illegal immigrants from the region. Regional stability. By installing a more cooperative or U.S.-managed administration, the U.S. hopes to create conditions that encourage Venezuelans to remain in or return to their home country. 4. The Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Politically, the administration is operating under what analysts call the Trump corollary. Hemispheric dominance. This doctrine asserts that the U.S. has the right to intervene in the Americas to preclude foreign adversaries from controlling strategically vital assets. Projection of strength. The removal of Maduro is seen as a way to re-establish American preeminence in the region and send a message to other authoritarian regimes in the hemisphere. Current status. As of January 2026. Following the capture of Maduro on January 3, 2026, the political situation remains volatile. While Trump initially claimed the U.S. would run Venezuela, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has since clarified that the U.S. seeks a transition to local authorities while maintaining a military presence and an oil blockade to ensure the remaining Chavista officials comply with U.S. demands. In the immediate aftermath of the capture of Nicolas Maduro in January 2026, President Trump's statements and actions point toward a hands-on approach that prioritizes American economic interests and regional dominance. Here is what the administration is focused on next. 1. Direct oversight. Running Venezuela. In his public remarks following Operation Absolute Resolve, Trump stated that the United States will essentially run Venezuela for a period of time. Provisional governance. Trump has suggested that a group of U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, will oversee the transition. Coerced cooperation. The administration is currently pressuring the remaining Venezuelan leadership, led by acting President Delcy Rodriguez, to comply with U.S. demands. Trump noted that Rodriguez seems willing to do what we think is necessary to avoid further military action. 2. The oil recovery plan. Trump has made it clear that taking the oil is a central pillar of his next steps. Infrastructure rebuilding. He has called on major U.S. oil companies like ExxonMobil and Chevron to invest billions to fix Venezuela's crumbling energy infrastructure. Reimbursement. Trump intends to use oil revenues to reimburse the U.S. for the costs of the military operation and to compensate American companies that were nationalized by the previous regime. The oil quarantine. Secretary Rubio has confirmed that the U.S. will maintain a total naval blockade to ensure no oil leaves the country unless it is through U.S.-approved channels. 3. Judicial proceedings in New York. A major next step is the legal prosecution of Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores. Trial. They were flown to New York on the USS Iwo Jima to face federal charges of narcoterrorism and drug trafficking. Trump views this high-profile trial as a way to prove his administration's success in stopping the drugs coming into the U.S. 4. Expanding the Monroe Doctrine. Trump is using the success of the Venezuela operation to send a message to other countries in the hemisphere. Warnings to neighbors. He has already issued warnings to Mexico and Colombia, suggesting that if they do not behave and crack down on drug trafficking, they could face similar military interventions. Expelling rivals. A top priority is the immediate removal of Russian, Chinese, and Cuban military and intelligence assets from Venezuelan soil to ensure the Western Hemisphere remains under U.S. influence. 5. Sidelining the old opposition. Interestingly, Trump has expressed skepticism about the traditional Venezuelan opposition led by Maria Corina Machado, suggesting she may not have the support needed to stabilize the country. This suggests the U.S. may prefer a stability-first approach using current officials who convert to the U.S. side, rather than a quick move to a fully democratic election. In January 2026, the question of who is the hope of the people has become a point of significant tension between the Venezuelan opposition and the Trump administration. While the Venezuelan people overwhelmingly voted for one leader in 2024, the current reality on the ground is complex. 1. The people's choice. Edmundo González Urrutia. For a vast majority of Venezuelans, the legitimate leader and symbol of hope remains Edmundo González Urrutia. The 2024 election. González is widely recognized by the international community and the Venezuelan opposition as the true winner of the July 2024 presidential election, which Maduro was accused of stealing through fraud. The symbol of democracy. He represents the democratic mandate of the people. Following the capture of Maduro, the opposition has called for González to be immediately installed as the rightful president and commander-in-chief. 2. The power broker. Maria Corina Machado. If González is the elected figurehead, Maria Corina Machado is the spiritual and political engine of the movement. The 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. Machado was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in December 2025 for her struggle against the Maduro regime. The sidelining. Despite her massive popularity, President Trump has recently sidelined her, claiming she lacks the respect and military support needed to govern. In a high-profile move to regain Trump's favor, she met him at the White House on January 15, 2026, and symbolically presented him with her Nobel Peace Prize medal, calling it a recognition of his commitment to Venezuela's freedom. +1. 3. The stability leader. Delcy Rodriguez. In a move that stunned many, the Trump administration has temporarily recognized Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president, as the interim leader. A market-friendly dictator? Trump has signaled he prefers working with Rodriguez for the moment because she controls the existing government bureaucracy and military. The compromise. Trump described her as gracious and willing to do what is necessary to cooperate with U.S. oil interests. While she is not the hope of the pro-democracy movement, she is currently the person the U.S. is using to run the country and maintain order. Summary of the conflict leader role status in Jan 2026. Edmundo González, president-elect recognized by the people, currently seeking to return from exile. Maria Corina Machado, opposition leader, Nobel laureate, seeking to convince Trump to back a democratic transition. Delcy Rodriguez, acting President Maduro's former number 2, recognized by Trump as a cooperative temporary leader. In January 2026, the mood in Venezuela is a volatile mix of euphoria, fear, and profound uncertainty. While many are relieved to see the end of Nicolas Maduro's decade-long rule, the reality of a U.S. military presence and the decision to keep Chavista officials in power has left a significant portion of the population disillusioned. Here is a breakdown of the current situation and the public sentiment. 1. Initial euphoria versus reality. Immediately following Maduro's capture on January 3, there were massive celebrations in the Venezuelan diaspora, Miami, Madrid, Santiago, and in some Caracas neighborhoods. The liberty sentiment. For millions who fled the country, the arrest was seen as the first step toward going home. The civilian toll, however, the celebration was tempered within Venezuela by the reality of the U.S. strikes. Reports indicate that while the military was the target, the operation caused civilian casualties and significant damage to infrastructure, leading to a somber atmosphere in several cities. 2. Disappointment with the new leadership. A major source of dissatisfaction is Trump's decision to work with Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president, rather than installing the Democratic opposition. Betrayal of the vote. Many citizens who risked their lives to vote for Edmundo Gonzalez in 2024 feel that the U.S. is trading one dictator for a puppet. Machado's sidelining. The fact that Nobel laureate Maria Corina Machado has been largely ignored by the Trump administration in favor of stability has caused anger among her millions of supporters. 3. Economic and humanitarian crisis. Satisfaction is extremely low regarding the immediate living conditions. The naval blockade. The U.S. has established an oil quarantine, seizing tankers to ensure no revenue reaches the remaining regime. While intended to pressure the government, this has worsened fuel shortages for ordinary citizens. Hyperscarcity. UN reports from mid-January 2026 indicate that 7.9 million people still need urgent humanitarian aid. Wages remain virtually zero, and the promise of oil wealth returning to the people has not yet reached the kitchen tables of most families. 4. Fear of protectorate status. There is a growing nationalist concern across the political spectrum. Sovereignty concerns. Even those who hated Maduro are wary of Trump's statement that the U.S. will run the country. The Panama parallel. Some compare the situation to the 1989 invasion of Panama, glad the dictator is gone, but fearful that the country will become a U.S. protectorate where local voices are ignored in favor of American energy interests. Summary of citizen satisfaction. Group primary feeling reason. The diaspora high satisfaction hope for return and the end of the nightmare. The youth/activists high frustration anger that the 2024 election winner was passed over for Delcy Rodriguez. The urban poor fear and hardship suffering from the blockade and lack of basic services. The military division uncertainty over whether to stay loyal to Rodriguez or fear U.S. prosecution. Thank you. Subscribe and follow me for more update news.